So we're outside of Miss Wiggins' classroom. This is, for program managers, this is what's called an impromptu meeting right here. We're getting ready to co-investigate with Alex. And we've basically been kicked out of every room in the building. So we're waiting to...
This is our last resort.
This is our last resort. We're waiting to meet with her. We're in Agina's car. I mean, it's roomy. Oh, y'all gotta see this. Agina is due tomorrow or yesterday or whenever. Right now. She might have the baby as we're talking. And these are her delivery bags and whatnot. How do you only have one little bag?
Because I don't plan to be there more than one day. I do not like staying in the hospital.
Alright, this is the problem with my... Yeah. Alright.
Folks.
So, I'm gonna hop out of the camera. Let's see if the planes will cooperate. And you're gonna tell us how you're thinking as you're preparing for this conversation. Yeah, so what are the outcomes? What are you trying to accomplish, and how do you want to go about accomplishing it?
So I feel like Alex is in a really good foundational point right now, and so the things I want to do have come out in conversations that I've had and information I've gathered about her classroom. I've been to her classroom twice, so
also right next to the airport, so just FYI.
I feel like I have a general understanding of what's going on and what I'd like to push her towards at this point. So based on some information I have, the outcomes that I want to achieve are related to benchmarks around her vision and rigor, and I want to hopefully steer the conversation in a direction that lets Alex have a lot of buy-in into these areas, because she's in such a good foundational place. I really feel like she can have a truly transformational classroom, but I think it's going to require some things, some more concrete things related to her vision, and it's definitely going to require a lot more rigorous backwards planning, because it's not happening right now. So the outcomes for the conversation are to pull out the deficit and the impact of a lack of backwards planning towards rigorous assessments, and also to get her to have buy-in into what the possibilities would be if she had regular benchmarks towards her vision goals related to those mindsets and traits, etc. So the outcomes are basically buy-in for benchmarks around her vision, and also to create next steps for creating truly rigorous assessment that she's backwards planning from on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more specifically around these benchmarks for her vision. So what are the components of her vision that you're like, okay, great, this is a good foundation, but I want to see her make this more concrete and real? Like, what are the specific parts of her vision that you're like, I want to see her make this more real?
Well, she has, third grade ready. She has, and I wish I had it right here in front of me, but she has like very concrete traits and mindsets that she wants to instill in her students, and she has like a description of what that would sound like or look like, but currently there is nothing to measure where all of her 21 or 22 students are towards that. So and again, it's just like going down her vision. She has it. She has a strong draft vision right now. But what I want is for her to be able to say, this is where my 22 students are now in November. This is where they will be in February. And by the end of May, this is where they will be. That's the piece that's missing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Okay,
so just measures of success around the different pieces of her vision.
Because she's in such a foundational place. Like, I see, like, her students can speak about it. They talk about being scholars right now, but I don't know. I feel like she's at that point where she can push that like much further to where it's not just part of the vernacular of the classroom, but to where it's actually something that the students are taking on as a true trait that will go beyond the walls of her classroom. They say it, but right now I want them to really understand what it means, and I want to see the impact that it has on their work in her classroom.
So when you think about those 3 questions, and I'm going to ask her these questions as well before the conversation, but when you think about whether or not she's really on a path towards a really meaningful destination with her kids, whether or not her kids are starting to build this enduring inner drive for themselves and they're investing in what's going on in the classroom, and then whether or not kids are mastering rigorous content, where would you say she lands in each of those 3 questions, and how is that guiding how you're thinking about framing this conversation for her?
Exactly. I love that. So right now, I see that her students have been exposed to her vision, like in a very consistent way. But in terms of it being something that is an inner drive, I don't think it's there yet for all of her students.
What pieces of evidence do you have that suggest that they're not there yet, or maybe some pieces of evidence that suggest that they're on their way?
So during my classroom visits, and I know you've been back, again, you saw some different things. Like, they talk about speaking with conviction, and they talk about, you know, being 3rd grade ready and being a scholar, but it's just basically giving back the information that's like at the surface in terms of revision. I would like to see them be able to make a connection between the things that she's been talking about in her classroom, about being a scholar, speaking with conviction, being 3rd grade ready, etc., and making a direct connection with like future goals. Like, I want them to be able to speak like really clearly about how all of these things connect to the rest of their lives, and why it's important to have these things be a part of who they are as students.
So they sort of know the what, at least, but they don't necessarily know the why.
Right.
Why it's important. They know maybe what's important, and maybe they don't all know what's important for the most part. I mean, I think I got the sense when we were in our classroom that her kids could tell you, like, yep, being 3rd grade ready, that's something we want. And being, you know, talking with conviction or having these other traits and mindsets, that's important stuff. But maybe they don't know why or how it's going to help them down the long.
So
or maybe they do, but we haven't gotten the evidence that they do.
Right, and so that's what I want to find out more. So when I'm framing this conversation with her, like, I want to start by hearing it in her words. I want to revisit her vision, hear it in her words, and just ask any clarifying questions. And then I want to also hear in her words where they are in terms of current data. And then moving on to like the second part of the conversation I envision, just asking more probing questions about her vision and what it would take to make sure that all 22 of her students not just have the what, but the why, and can make those direct connections.
And let me ask you a question. Why do we want to make sure we're going down that route with Alexis? Like, why do we think she's in the place right now where we feel good about really honing in on like how she's getting her students to be invested in her vision, how she's getting her students to understand that this is like they have to understand the why behind the vision? Like, why go down that route as opposed to, you know, some other route, I guess. I don't know if that was a clear question, but
because I feel like she's ready. I feel like this is the next thing that needs to happen. She's on the path to a truly transformational classroom, in my opinion, but some things need to change. The sense of urgency, it's alive in her classroom, but I want it to be directed in a very specific way. And so I want to give her guidance on how to direct that urgency that she's already created, because if you go into her classroom, I mean, it's vibrant, it's alive. There's urgency with everything that she does. But I want it to be, I want to direct that urgency so that some very concrete things begin to happen that she can measure with her students, so that by the end of the year, all 22 of her students have truly internalized this, you know, this internal drive for excellence, and all of them are truly mastering rigorous content. So, I mean, she has all the basics, and I just want to like direct that incredible urgency and incredible CIE that she has in a very specific way, so that we can start seeing like even like greater leaps with her. So.
All right, so we're gonna take a pause for the cause for a couple of reasons. One, because my camera battery just died, and two, because it's getting hot out here now. We're gonna see if we can get inside, and we'll be back.